When I was growing up, I loved Dragon Ball Z.
Don't fuck with me! I have the power of God and anime on my side!
Wait,
Dragon Ball Z. Dragon, rock, dragon, come,
Same as every other 90s kid in America, I'm sure, but I was obsessed with it, to the point where, in my free time, I used to just draw pictures of Goku. One day in 1st or 2nd grade, I thought it would be really cool if I used my dad's printer and I copied a bunch of my drawings of Goku, and I handed them out to my friends in my homeroom class. I thought that this would make me really popular for some reason, and might even impress the girl with the Sailor Moon backpack I had such a big crush on. Spoilers, none of that happened, and instead of becoming the coolest kid in my school, I became the anime kid. Nice. A much less prestigious title, as I would find out. This one kid, specifically, rightfully, was making fun of me for it, and he told me something I'll never forget. He told me to keep my religion to myself. I was confused because I had never thought of Dragon Ball Z as being a religion, or Goku as being the god of it. But, here we are. I guess you could say I was being a little Neon Genesis evangelist back then. Fast forward to middle school, and I got bullied again for wearing my Leaf Village headband to school, and I thought, maybe I should be a little bit more low-key about my hobbies and my interests here. I still spread the good word of Death Note from time to time on my school bus or at my lunch table, something like that, but by the time I got to high school, I really was a lot more laid back. My main hobby was just hanging out with my friends, playing video games, and my main interest was with the cute scene and emo girls and goth girls that attended my youth group for some reason. Much like them, anime and manga got me through some hard times when I was growing up, and were also very much the cause of some hard times. Either way, it gave me a lot of my formative experiences when I was younger, and I've been thinking about that. I think, emo girls, scene girls, they're a lot like anime and manga in a way. They're very dramatic, very edgy, very cringy. There's lots of weird hairstyles and dialogue that doesn't make any sense. There's massive, huge lore and character backstories that you need to keep track of, and mental illnesses everywhere. This video is about the 2D anime waifu with the biggest boobas that I know of, and that would be One Piece.
What is the story of One Piece about? Well, I think at this point we all understand that it's about a lot more than a boy trying to find a famous treasure.
There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
My fortune is yours for the taking, but you'll have to find it first. I left everything I own in one piece.
Now we all know the basic formula of One Piece. The Straw Hats sail to a new island has bad guys that are causing problems, Straw Hats beat the bad guys and solve the problems. But the constant is that there is a deep darkness that plagues each island. A village where humans have become the subservient race. A nation where medicine is withheld from its people. A country being manipulated into civil war. A land where everyone is at the mercy of an all-powerful god. At this point, when things have become worse than ever, when the citizens are literally praying for some sort of a miracle, when they're completely devoid of all hope, That's when the Straw Hats become the hope.
Apparently, there was a figure that slaves would pray to in the long-distant past, the sun god Nika. Did he exist, or did they dream him up? They thought he'd bring smiles to their faces and deliver them from suffering. All of these civilizations who practice some form of sun worship, sun desire, or sun-based prophecy are going to be united and liberated on a global stage by our one Monkey D. Luffy, the actual sun god that at least like half of these countries just flat out worship.
We start by setting off on a fun adventure into a world that appears dreamlike and fantastic on the surface. We slowly get hints that the world is not as romantic as it seems, that there is evil everywhere and that much of the evil we see can be traced back to a greater source, until finally we get hit with the realization that we've been reading a work of dystopian fiction this entire time.
I thought I was reading a fun adventure with some really great emotional moments. And it was Skypia that made me realize, oh, Oda's doing something. When it became a piece of my identity, a part of my personality, was Enislavi and Water 7.
So, yeah, shouts out to that kid in my first grade class because he absolutely called it. But, maybe you think I'm reaching. Maybe you think that One Piece is still just a silly pirate manga. Luffy is a sun god, sure, but it's not a religion. Well, to be fair, I don't know what Nobunaga Oda's religious beliefs are. I don't know if he believes in any actual sun deities out there or what he thinks is going to happen to us when we die. But it doesn't really matter because you can tell just by how long he spent writing this story that he believes it. This is functionally the same as his religion. It's not a hot take that fantasy stories can serve as people's religion for people who don't have one or for people who don't take the one that they do have seriously. Look at the Marvel movies or the Harry Potter books, the Star Wars franchise, really anything. You can be a big enough fan of anything that you essentially turn it into your religion. It's just what idolatry is, It's in that respect that One Piece is a religion. It's one of the better ones out there, to be fair. It's better than the Book of Mormon, Sword Art Online, Judaism, but it's still a religion at the end of the day.
The sunrise is equivalent to the dawn of consciousness, so that in many archaic stories, the sun was a hero who illuminated the sky in the day, and so heroism and illumination and enlightenment are all tangled together metaphorically. And then at night, what would happen would be the sun would fight with the dragon of darkness, basically, or with evil all night, and then rise again victorious in the morning. And so it's a death and rebirth theme, and it's very, 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 very common mythological theme.
How can you dispute the theory that Jesus is just a rewrite of the sun god myth? Well, I wouldn't necessarily dispute that theory. Although I would dispute the just.
I really tried. I tried to believe that there is a God who created each of us in his own image and likeness, loves us very much, and keeps a close eye on things. I really tried to believe that, but I gotta tell you, the longer you live, the more you look around, the more you realize something is fucked up. If this is the best God can do, I am not impressed. Results like these do not belong on the resume of a supreme being. So rather than be just another mindless religious robot, mindlessly and aimlessly and blindly believing that all of this is in the hands of some spooky, incompetent father figure who doesn't give a shit, I decided to look around for something else to worship, something I could really count on. And immediately, I thought of the sun. Happened like that. Overnight, I became a sun worshiper. Well, not overnight, you can't see the sun at night. But first thing the next morning, I became a sun worshiper. So every day I can see the sun as it gives me everything I need: heat, light, food, flowers in the park, reflections on the lake, an occasional skin cancer, but hey, at least there are no crucifixions, and we're not setting people on fire simply because they don't agree with us.
Okay, so the hero is born, and that's what the rising sun represents, and everybody goes, oh, isn't that cute? And so then the shaman basically baptizes him. That's essentially what he's doing, and he uses something that's symbolic of the sun, which is this ripe fruit. And fruits are symbolic of the sun because, of course, they need the sun to ripen, and they're round like the sun. And so, and people know that they need light, but And so anyways, the animators make a relationship between the fruit that the shaman is going to break and the sun. And so he's also being baptized into the sun, and that means that he's being baptized into the light, or that he's being transformed into a hero.
You know, it's just like King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. I think about what it was like for him sometimes, being the richest and wisest king in Old Testament Israel. Undoubtedly, he was the coolest kid in his class that all the girls had crushes on, you know, in his little middle school class that I'm sure he had back then. You know, one day he's out in the town square, he's looking for a new wife or two, and he notices some princesses from some neighboring pagan kingdoms, you know, the original goth girls of the Old Testament. Oh man. And they've got weird hairstyles, I'm sure, and they might talk kind of funny. It's a meta joke woven through time at all of our expense. This whole sun worship thing. It's been from Babylon to Assyria to Egypt, you know, China, Japan, India. It's what George Carlin and Jordan Peterson both believe. You know, all roads lead to Rome is the old saying, and a lot of people don't quite know how true that is, I would say. So one of the things in One Piece that people, I think, find the most intriguing is this idea of the void century, this 100-year gap in history that no one knows exactly what happened. It's this story of like this ancient kingdom that lost some important battle, and knowledge of them has been lost throughout time. And if only we're on like this alternate timeline where we're in the bad timeline where the world government is in charge. But thank goodness Luffy, he's gonna come and liberate all of us from the darkness. You know, in real life, actual factual, no capsule history, there is also an ancient kingdom that some say might have lost an important battle. You know, they at least got conquered and their people were spread out throughout all the other nations of the world. I'm of course talking about the ancient kingdom of Israel. It's interesting though that God didn't need to write his word on giant unbreakable stone tablets to secure knowledge of him existing throughout history. If you go back to the Tower of Babel, that's where this stuff kind of comes from. You have the original Joy Boy, if you will, Nimrod, and then his son Tammuz.
If you remember, in ancient Babylon, originally it was known as Babel, and the Tower of Babel particularly that was attempted to be built there on the in Shinar there after the flood, and that project was interrupted. Now, at that time, there was the history reveals to us, and the Bible talks about Nimrod, who was the builder of Babel, and history reveals to us that Nimrod had a wife, Semiramis, and later on Tammuz, a son, was in the picture, and they were actually figures that were worshipped in ancient Babel. It was really none other than Satan worship or sun worship. It was the sun god that they deified as a symbol, the great symbol for the god that they worshipped, and it was really none other than Satan behind the scenes.
One of my favorite themes in One Piece, because it is one of my favorite stories, it's just not my religion. One of my favorite themes is just not giving up on your dream and on your beliefs. One of my favorite scenes in One Piece is when they land on this island called Jaya. They're looking for information about how to get to Skypiea, the Sky Islands, right? This weird, far-fetched, crazy idea that they're all mocked relentlessly for on the island. And inevitably, when Luffy beats the bad guy of this little mini arc in One Punch, he's asked where he thinks he's going.
Luffy, king of the pirates. He's made of rubble.
How did that happen?
Yo ho ho, he took a bite of gum gum.